Fellas, I've had it. I've had it with cheap looking monitors, and thankfully today the Gigabyte MO27U2 is a monitor that looks so great. I said wowza out loud as I was unveiling it. Now, this monitor is a 4K 27-inch 240Hz tandem QD OLED monitor, as it's using their new 5-layer design, which should, in theory, lead to higher durability. Of course, it does also come with G-Sync support, an HDR True Black 400 certification, standard VESA support, and speaking of ports, pause if you need to, but most importantly, couldn't help myself, well, it comes with DisplayPort 1.4, so release your wailing and gnashing of teeth in the comments over the absence of 2.1 support, although you do get two HDMI 2.1, so that's very nice. Now, this also comes in at a price of $999.99, and with a 3-year warranty that also includes burn-in. Well, actually, that price point is very good for a monitor of these specs. I mean, for a lot of people, this is the holy grail, but we're gonna figure out if it's gonna be the right monitor for you. Now, real quick, if you've never seen my channel before, I'm the display guy and I review everything from monitors to TVs to even VR, so get subscribed if that sounds interesting to you. And before we dive into the data, let's just summarize, what should you expect out of this monitor? Well, you should expect an extremely clear picture, both when you're not moving as well as in motion. And since it is an OLED display and each pixel can turn off and on, well, you should also expect in a light-controlled room, extremely high contrast that blows older LCDs out of the water, along with its excellent gaming performance. So this really is the best technology you can get your hands on today in a light-controlled room, and we'll touch on that later. Also, real quick, before we jump into this review, this unit was lent to me by Gigabyte, but of course that will not be changing my opinion on the display. And I do also want to highlight quickly, usually I don't talk a whole lot about the exterior of these monitors, but this one, at least the stand, was so good. It comes with a very sturdy, super high quality metal stand that honestly is probably the best I have ever seen. And it's even better that it doesn't take up a ton of room on your desk. So to be honest with you, this is one of those stands where you might be just happy with it, especially since it does just about everything you need it to, which could save you a lot of money investing into some sort of monitor arm. But enough is enough. Let's jump into the actual measurements, and for those of you who just want the TLDR on the accuracy and color reports, well, feel free to skip ahead, but for everybody else who's chubbing out over the Portrait Display CalMAN results I'm about to go over, by the way, I'm a part of the reviewer program, links in the description below. Also, affiliate links to this monitor if you're interested in the description below. Well, for those of you, let's jump into it. So let's start off with its SDR performance. And you know what? It's pretty decent out of the box, but as per usual, it has some of the wrong settings applied. So if you do want the best settings for this display, I'll have a link to my Patreon, which will have them in the description below, which also gets you access to the Discord where you can talk to me directly and we can pretend like we're family. Now, after adjusting it, yes, I did get better results here, definitely in terms of the color. However, I still had some issues with the white balance, especially as it got brighter. There was unfortunately some amount of raised shadow detail there, and well, near black performance did skew a little bit too red. There's also just a little bit too much red in general, and honestly, this problem doesn't surprise me based on some other reviews I've done. Now, in terms of the color checker analysis, it did all right with an average DeltaE of 2.5, but that does mean that there will be some visually noticeable errors, making this not necessarily the best option for those who are into color grading. Now, in terms of the HDR performance out of the box, the default preset is actually pretty good. It does have a tiny bit of black level crush right at the bottom of the chart there, and there is a little bit of under tracking on the EOTF, but for the most part it's pretty good, and the only other real problem again is the white balance as well as near black performance skewing a bit red. Now, as for the HDR Peak 1000 mode, this thing is just totally blown out and wrong, and I wasn't able to fix it. I mean, we really do need to get to a point where we have a usable HDR 1000 mode. Am I asking for too much? I mean, am I way off base here? Come on. enough of this, and this goes for pretty much every manufacturer. We need some better accuracy out of these monitors. But in any case, pretty much all the other modes have their own issues, and I would probably just stick with the standard HDR mode for this monitor. Now, in terms of its accuracy overall, I got an average DeltaE of 7.21, which is pretty decent. However, in terms of the BT 2020 gamut coverage, I actually got lower than expected results at 76%. I ran it multiple times. I don't know why that is the case. Still better than WOLED, don't get me wrong, but it's just a bit under what I was expecting. So overall, is this monitor the holy grail when it comes to color grading? No, it's not. It does have some accuracy issues, both in SDR as well as HDR. There was some near black problems as well as white balance issues that I couldn't totally resolve. It's not super bad, but they are noticeable at times. Also, the higher brightness HDR mode is effectively unusable as it totally blows everything out, and the overall color accuracy was pretty good, but nothing to write home about. So yeah, it could be improved, and hopefully Gigabyte does that in the near future. But let's move on to HDR, because to be honest with you, most gamers probably aren't going to be too bothered by these inaccuracies. So what about the HDR? I mean, is it finally a bright HDR monitor? And the answer is no. This is just like every other QD OLED monitor on the market. If you're in a totally pitch black room, look, it's probably gonna be bright enough for most folks, but in higher APL scenes, well, it's just gonna appear pretty lackluster, especially when you compare it to a TV. I mean, for example, if you take a look at this versus the LG G5, which I'm using as my personal monitor, and by the way, I'll have a link to that review as well as a link to that product as an affiliate link in the description below. Well, that thing, I mean, we're talking about this thing being 4, maybe 5 times brighter than QD OLEDs. It's a huge gulf that really needs to be addressed with future monitors. And what this means is, again, if you're in a dark scene, it is gonna look very good on this QD OLED. And overall, yes, HDR is a good option to enable. I highly recommend enabling. But when it's a brighter scene, well, it just kind of struggles to give you the depth that maybe you'd be expecting. Specifically, if we take a look here at the peak window results, you can see it's kind of near the middle of the pack, which is a bit unfortunate considering this is the new Tandem OLED structure. I was hoping for a bit more brightness, but no, we're looking at about 491 nits in a 10% window and 278 in a 100% window. I mean, compare that to the G5 with 2,500, and yeah, that's kind of a joke. But what about in a game? Is it the same? And pretty much, yeah, you do see similar stuff here, where unfortunately this just doesn't get bright enough to do HDR justice in the way that I'd like to see on monitors. So hopefully next generation does improve. Now let's talk about the ambient light handling, because this is going to be another sore spot for QD OLED. Unfortunately, because these monitors do kind of light up magenta when hit with honestly even a somewhat small amount of light, it means that in my testing, I got a result of 0.17, with the lower being better, and you compare that to something like the new 32-inch glossy MLA WOLED from Asus, which I retested recently to double confirm the results. And on that one, on my retest, I got 0.07 nits, so we're talking about a pretty significant increase in issues with ambient light on QD OLED versus WOLED. And you compare that to the 55-inch glossy 4-layer WOLED G5, and yeah, the gulf is absolutely enormous. I mean, on that TV, that 55-inch TV, black looks absolutely black. But on QD OLED, when you have the lights on, that's not going to be the case. So that is going to be an issue you're going to have to look out for when using this monitor. Now, to be clear, as long as you control your lighting, you're probably not going to notice this problem. But a lot of people like to have a window open or a door open with light spilling in. And for you, yeah, it will be a problem. But what about the gaming performance? Honestly, this is the most important, and here it does extremely well. We're talking about 25 milliseconds of total system latency, putting this as one of the fastest monitors I have ever reviewed. And at a 240 hertz refresh rate, I'll tell you this much, you get just such a clear picture with such a low latency. Not only are you getting that 4K resolution, making everything just super crystal clear, but at 240 frames per second, even objects moving very quickly across your screen are very easily trackable. And it just leads to such a great experience. If you're someone who's looking for a clear display, this I definitely would say should be at the top of your list of considerations, especially how gorgeous the stand looks. And if you're stuck on an LCD right now, God rest your soul, well, it's time to upgrade to OLED, and maybe this is the one for you, because it also comes with a lot of features such as the tactical switch to change the size of the screen if you like playing games with binoculars, and it also comes with the anti-flicker technology, KVM picture-in-picture, picture-by-picture, and the high-efficiency cooling system. So there's a lot of stuff and way more than that I don't even have time to cover. We're on a schedule here, folks. And so let's move on to the text clarity and subpixel layout. Look, the subpixel layout, it's pretty much the same. So how does text look? Look, because it's such a high resolution on a small screen, I would say it looks great, but it does have some fringing issues still. I mean, until they swap to a different subpixel arrangement, you're just gonna run into a bit of that, but I think most people will be very happy with how clear it looks. Speaking of clarity, well, this thing comes with a glossy coating, which means, oh my God, is it clear? This absolutely puts matte coatings to shame, and you get a very transparent as well as deep looking image that is just gonna blow every other monitor that you've probably tried up until now out of the water. This is a huge upgrade, and if you're on an LCD, for the love of God, move to a glossy QD OLED or WOLED, I don't care which it is, you are going to get such a massive improvement to the image quality, and this monitor is no different. Now, as for the sound, look, it comes with some speakers. If you're feeling brave, go ahead and give them a try. I wouldn't, but they're there. Now, thankfully, I didn't actually run into any major issues, and the menu and firmware was actually pretty good. Now, there will be a bit of VRR flicker at low inconsistent frame rates, but that goes for every OLED. So what do I think about this OLED? Look, I think this is God, especially with that stand, one of the best looking OLEDs I've ever seen. It looks so good in terms of the design. Also, because it's a 4K 240Hz QD OLED at 27 inches, it is so clear, it's so fast, it looks so good in motion. This is truly one of the best monitors you could possibly buy today, but as with every monitor, it has issues, fellas. I mean, look, you're gonna have issues with ambient light, it's not bright enough. You know, I will say, hey, I might have missed this one, oopsie, but the viewing angles are basically perfect, which is awesome. But anyway, back to some of the issues, and most importantly, honestly, it has some problems with accuracy, especially in HDR. I mean, there's issues with the EOTF tracking, as well as colors not being quite as tight as I'd like, and there's a bit of problem with it being too red at the near black levels. So it's not perfect by any stretch, and hopefully these things can be improved via firmware updates, and the brightness can be hopefully massively improved with future models. But look, every OLED is like that right now, and these are without a doubt the best displays you can get on the market today, whether it's glossy, QD OLED, or WOLED, they're all awesome. And so for that reason, this is such an awesome display. I'm giving it a solid 8 out of 10. Once again, I'll have affiliate links in the description below, and make sure to stay tuned for future reviews and for everything else display related. Make sure you get subscribed here on the Display Guy. Whether you're looking to connect a new console, gaming PC, or just need a fast and reliable HDMI cable to connect over long distances, Rupro has you covered with their certified 8K HDMI 2.1 fiber optic cable, available in sizes up to 50 feet and can deliver a perfect full 48 gigabits per second connection over distances other cables could only dream of reaching. And now Rupro's offering a new detachable and upgradable pure fiber cable that sends the same 48 gigabits per second signal through its ultra thin and flexible housing, making it easier to route through walls. So if you're in the market for a cable that can drive a beautiful new TV or monitor, be sure to check out Rupro on Amazon today.